Jolman Stock Funds, how can I help you?
Yeah, hey, do you guys sell stock then?
Yeah, we sell some stocks here.
Okay, I've got two stocks I really want to sell. One of them is General Electric. The other one's my face down stock.
General Electric, that's easy. What do you mean by face down stock? I'm not sure I understand what you're saying there.
Well, it's the stock that I give you face down, and then you sell it for me.
I still don't follow here.
No, yeah, it's. Okay, I'll give you the GE.
Yeah?
And then you're gonna get the face down.
I don't get that.
Other stock, okay?
Okay, I can sell the GE stock.
So you agree, okay?
Yeah, I'll sell GE.
I got some bad news for you, bud. The face down stock is actually trading fees. You owe me $1,000 now.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Sorry.
Who is this?
We're looking at Stockpile today with a particular emphasis on the illicit investments expansion. So I'm going to take a look at the base Stockpile game real quick so we can get an overview of the whole game, including that expansion. What you see in front of us here is basically a setup game. This game's really quick to set up. It's one of its strengths is that it's not a lot of setup. We've got our stacks of money over there. We have our pile of stocks and basically action cards. Every player starts off with one of these little portfolio boards, and then there's just a little bit more setup after that. In a player's play area, they're going to start off with a little portfolio board here. Now, it's important to realize that we have two sides to this board. This is just our generic regular stocks valued market here spot, and then this is the doubled. So when the stocks split, which will happen as we go up the track, then they move over to this side. So whenever a stock split happens, we move it over to that side. And that indicates that that stock is worth double the value because you got 2 shares for 1, like a real stock split. You also get this investing meeple here, or like basically auction meeple. This is what you get in the base setup. We'll talk about a couple things that we're going to do as we add some little modules or expansions to the game. But we do start off with one company. So this guy starts off with Stanford Steel. So they're going to want to make sure Stanford Steel is going up as best they can, or maybe just keep an eye on when it gets high and try and get rid of it. And the game is divided into a bunch of rounds that have a bunch of phases in them. So amongst the phases are the information phase, the supply phase, the demand phase, and then like the action phase, I think are the basic phases of the game. And we're going to go and get to those right now. So during the information phase, we're going to take these cards and we're going to flip one of them face over onto the board from each pile. That's going to be public information for all of us to know. So as savvy Wall Street investors, we have a feeling that Epic Electric is going to be a strong company and that it's going to go up to value. That's maybe the less cynical version. But what might be more true of this theme of this game is that we are players with inside information on Wall Street because we're going to deal every person a pair of these cards as well with some insider information in it. So this player is going to know that American Automotive is going to go up four shares at the end of, or four value points at the end of the round, which is a huge jump. So they're going to keep an eye out for American Automotive stock, and they know that. They're the only player who knows that, and they're going to secretly, hang on to these cards, put them back in that pile, but they have a piece of information they know. These players have some information as well. So this person would know Bottom Line Bank is going to go up 1 value. And this person would know, ooh, look at that. That's a dividend card. So they're going to pay a dividend. Leading Labs is going to pay a dividend. So they all have some information that they know. Some other information that they might find out would include stock drops. So having that information and knowing that is kind of the bluffing element of this game. You're kind of reading the other players, seeing if someone's overly eager to get a stock or overly eager to sell a stock. And you're kind of reading the trends on the table, which is kind of a fun aspect of this game. So in our setup, we've been set up for a 3-player game. So these calculators on the bottom indicate how many players we would use these stockpiles for. So in a 3-player game, we wouldn't use these last 2 calculators. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in now so we can just get a better idea of what's going on the board. You can play up to 5 players. It does scale well. what's going to happen with these 3-player areas is that there's going to be auctions happening here. And that's where we use these guys. So you place that on there and you say, you know what, I'd be willing to take those stocks for free. And sometimes that happens. Or I'd pay as upwards of $25 for that pile of stock. So what's going to happen though is, how do we get our piles of stock? Well, we start off by putting one card face up into each of these spots. So this worked out really well, that these are all 3 just companies that people would have you know, some information about, potentially, but they're just companies. They're not actions. Each player's also dealt 2 cards. So let's take a look at this player's 2 cards. They have 2 companies as well. And so they wouldn't show the whole table, their 2 cards, because they have an advantage by not showing them to everyone. So what they're going to do now is they're going to say, you know what? Wow. Based on I know Epic Electric is going to go up too, I want to hide this share of Epic Electric so I don't have to make that public knowledge. So I'm going to put that one face down here with Leading Labs and put the other Leading Labs there. And so now I know exactly what's in that pile. Well, then what happens over the game though is other players start doing the same things. They put some shares face down, some face up. Sometimes you get a real big pile, you know? And in these cards, there are things that aren't exactly stocks. So there are things like trading fees. That kind of harms that pile. It's like a thing you have to pay right away when you get it. But then there's also these action cards that could happen, like a stock bust. And a stock bust is your ability to manipulate a stock down 2 points in that instance there. But there's also stock booms. So as the piles begin to develop, there's secret things in there and there's public things in there. And sometimes by keeping these stock booms face down in a pile that you don't think is very good, you can end up getting that card really inexpensively. There's a lot of strategy to this game just based on the few things we've talked about here, about how you can hide different cards and things like that. So this is all the base game that we're going to basically have these piles develop out here. So I'm going to take these off just to show, like, you know, this might be about where our piles would end up at. Let's say like that. So we've got one pile that's got quite a bit in it, another pile that doesn't have very much in it, and then a middle pile there. So we do know that that's a share of Epic Electric if we were that player. So we know that that's a pretty solid card. And I'm the green player. So I might, I don't know. This is where the bidding gets kind of interesting. I might start off by bidding 0 on that pile, because if I get that one for 0, I'm cool, man. I'm happy about that. But at the same time, I really want this pile over here. So they know I put that hidden card in that pile. They might think I put a trading fees card there or something like that if I'm not bidding on my own pile that I created or own hidden information that I created. So they might go, you know what? I don't want that big pile, because if he's not going to take it and he put that card there, I'm going to bump him out of his spot there. So I'm going to do that. So now all of a sudden the green player got bumped from his spot, and that's going to allow the green player to bid again later. So the bidding keeps going. That person might say, you know what, I'm happy to not be competitive and just kind of take whatever leftovers you guys have. And actually they wouldn't be able to bump me out from the spot I had. So at this point, I would have a decision to make of saying, am I going to let that person have that for 0, or am I going to take that for 0? And I would take that for 0 probably. But that would be a goofy move on this person's behalf, and this person might be pretty upset that they played that way. So a more realistic way to play would be, I'm going to try and take this spot here for 0, and then I would have to bump that person there. Then that person's bumped again, and we don't want to try and let people have things too cheaply. So we're always trying to jack the prices up. So then maybe the blue player would go here, knock this person out, who then would say, you know what, I don't want to pay 6 for that pile, but I will pay 3 for that pile. And then finally someone's going to take the consolation prize of saying, you know what, I'm fine with taking that one for 0. And then it ends up being, you know, like everyone gets a pile of stocks and you take them into your portfolio and you get to see what happens inside of there. And this person's happy because it's all just good stocks, and they go into your stock portfolio. And that's the acquiring phase. We then have the actions phase, which is where if we got some of those, basically those stock booms or stock bust cards, we would adjust the market based on that. And then we would also go through our different movement cards, our secret knowledge cards that we got at the beginning of the round, and adjust stocks. But before all that happens, we're able to sell off stocks. So there's an opportunity we have there. So if I know a stock's going to bust, I can sell that stock off. So that's the base game, the basic ideas of the base game here. We then add some other modules to it. So for example, we get investors. Even in the base game, we get a few investors. So we have Mano Martha, who is allowed to peek at another person's cards. Dividend Deborah, who is able to have a dividend payout once per round of the company of her choice, which is super powerful. And then we have this guy, Discount Donald. I don't know why we put a politician in this game, but we did. I'm obviously kidding. This game came out before Donald the politician, so he gets a discount on his auctions. So if he bid 15, he pays the next lower price. He always gets a discount. So these player powers are balanced by the amount of money that you get to start the rounds off. You also, in the illicit investments, get an additional investor named Illicit Ivan. And Illicit Ivan gets extra event cards from illicit investments. And I guess while we're talking about illicit investments, we should talk about that in general now. So at the heart of the illicit investments expansion, you get this stack of investment strategy cards. And people are going to get a hand of these cards based on the player count and the number of rounds we're playing. But they're going to do things, and they basically have a cost associated with them up in the top there, and then some kind of action or benefit that happens. So just taking a look at this Rogue Trading card. This one says Rogue Trading, reveal and split a single share. So this would be like moving one of your shares from one side of the board to the other. Just by doing that, you can do that. You double your amount of shares that you have. You double your share to 2, I guess, for that one. Fraudulent transfer, gain 1 share from the discard pile. I mean, that's pretty wild. The Cowboy Market, pay 4K to move 1 stock up 2 or down 2. Cowboy Marketing. And then, I mean, there's just a number of cards that just kind of really make this game have almost a take that feel to it. Just makes the game super unpredictable. So the base game I really, really like. And I think the base game itself is about as good of a stock market game as there is out there, with some elements of bluffing and things. But then this really makes the game wacky. Like, just adds another layer of player interaction, adds another player of just, you can't map out your victory in that. It makes things unpredictable, and you have to respond a lot to cards that are being played. And it doesn't let you min-max the game very well, which is really, usually, generally a really good thing. I wouldn't add this expansion from day one. I would play the base game for quite a while, flip the board over and play the variable setup, and then add these later. But this stack of cards here is going to add a lot of other gameplay to the boards here. So, just interesting that there's these event cards that happen. I'm not going to go through them all, but you guys get a sense of them, that there's a cost, and then they break the rules in the game. One other thing I do want to mention about illicit investments is it comes with these wooden pieces that replace the cardboard ones in the base game, which is so nice. The cardboard pieces that used to go on the board were very thin cardboard. They worked fine, but it felt like the X in particular was always going to break. The upgrade to wooden pieces in this is really a nice touch. You don't think much of it until you play with them and you go, oh, that's much nicer to play with than the little cheap cardboard pieces. So overall, the components in this game now with the illicit investments, I think comes up to an above average game. It was probably about an average game for components. The design of the game is really good. But the illicit investments, definitely with that upgrade of those little components there, is another nice little touch. They could have just given us a deck of cards. Instead, they gave us a deck of cards and some nice little component upgrades for the base game. So that's Stockpile. Not necessarily a rules explanation, but just kind of an overview. And let's get back into the studio, and I'm going to give you some final thoughts.
Let's talk Stockpile. Here are my positives for this game. It is a really nicely presented game. The design is easy to follow. The concept of the game is pretty easy. So it's all very nice in the streamlined package where you're easy to follow the graphic design. It's easy to understand what the cards do, what they mean. You can explain this game very quickly. And it's just this really light, nice package that's very different from what a typical gateway game is. It's got elements of bluffing. It's got some stock elements in it. So usually when we talk about gateway games, we're talking about games like Catan, or we're talking about games like Ticket to Ride, which are your typical gateway games. And they're great at it. They do a good job with being a gateway game. But that's like a route building, train type game. Speaking of train, you guys heard that in the background? This one, though, I should have a bell go off because it's a stock market game. And I think it's really cool that there's another type of gateway game. And that's what Stockpile really does. It introduces elements of reading the players, Introduces elements of you have to go to the stock market and try and figure out how to make some money, how to turn a profit. And then you got that secret knowledge, which is kind of fun too. So having that secret role, almost not quite secret role, but it's like a little bit of a secret, I know something that happens in this game. So I think those things in a gateway package are really neat. And I think that I really enjoy this game for those reasons. Now, if there's a weakness to this game, the weakness would be it gets a little samey. It feels like the same game every time you play it almost. It's because you do the same rounds. You make piles of stocks. You bid on them. You know your secret stuff. So that kind of, its simplicity is also what makes it feel the same sometimes. That said, we're looking at this expansion as well. So those event cards in there, the extra little bits of twists and turns that can happen in this game with this expansion, keep it fresh. They add that next layer. So now Stockpile is this game that you can introduce in its base vanilla version, get it in as a gateway game, get people to learn it, have fun with it. Then later on, add those event cards, add those extra rolls, and enjoy them. And have that bit of flavor in there as well. So I think overall, we're going to be really happy with Stockpile for a long time, myself included. It's got a spot on my shelf. It's going to stay there. I don't see it being taken off my shelf anytime soon. So overall, I'm very happy with this game. Let's take a look at how I'm going to do the ratings in this game. The accessibility of this game is going to be gateway. I think this is something that you can play with about anybody. Anybody who understands the concepts of what the stock market is, anybody who understands what it means to buy low, sell high, can play this game. Adding those events, there's some reading dependence in there a little bit. Some having to understand the basic game mechanics. So maybe you don't add that right away, but accessibility is everybody. The theme on this game is really fun. Playing the stock market, getting those transactions to make you money and making money. It's a fun theme. It's fun to play pretend like you're a tycoon, you know? So I have a lot of fun with this theme. It's a really good theme, really fun theme, very accessible to, I would say, everybody. The components in this game and the art, I'm going to say, are overall just really good. It's a really fantastic, well-built, well-put-together game with nice components. The art, all of it streamlined package like I talked before, easily understandable, nice presentation on the table. The money is like a nice, it's not coins, but it's like on cards. It's really nice money. I like the size of the money too. It makes the gameplay pretty good. You got nice little player mats too that look like a portfolio. And then the one complaint I had about the components in this game before were that the components in this game, the little cardboard X and the circles, were really cheaply made. Very thin cardboard, and you touch them and you handle them a lot. With the expansion, they become wooden. So that is extinct. That complaint is no longer valid. So I would say the components in this are an excellent overall thing. The weight of this game, we talked about the accessibility being everybody. The fun on this game, I'm going to give a very high rating. I'm going to give this one a 4.5 out of 5 fun because it's very fun. It's a very fun game. I have a lot of fun playing this game. I laugh a lot when I play it. I just really enjoy it overall. So I'm giving this a really high rating on the fun. I'm giving it a really high rating on the components and art. I'm giving it a 4.5 on that as well. And so I think the value of this game overall too is really positive too. This one's going to see the table a lot. It can have a lot of opportunities to see the table. So the accessibility of this game, the overall good value price point, the nice quality components and art, all of that's going to land me with a final rating on this game of 4.5 out of 5. And it's going to stay in my collection for a very long time. This is one of my favorite games of a couple years ago. The expansion makes it better. It makes it fresh, makes it something I want to get off the shelf and play more often. So if you're a big fan of Stockpile like me, and you want to have more ways to get it off the shelf, I would strongly encourage you to take a look at getting the expansion Illicit Investments, because it is going to make this game get off the shelf a little more frequently. And it's going to address the ideas of it being a little samey at times, being a little bit, rinse, repeat. So I do like this game quite a bit. I think that it's a good game. And that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subbing. I really do enjoy having you guys follow the channel. We like engaging with you guys and being entertained with you guys. I do, if you've noticed, I've made a little change to my setup here. I have the obligatory sit in your corner of your games and talk about them kind of thing going on now. With that, I'm learning how to keep my notes better. So this one might have been a little bit rambly, but I think I'll get that addressed by the next video. But thanks for watching, and I've enjoyed working with you guys.